So, very nice presentation by Kirk about Android, even though I really didn't understand jack of what he was talking about. Because, as a matter of fact, the last time I built an Android app with Java was back in 2007, I think.
Wow.
I haven't touched native mobile development since then. So I put together this application, this presentation to talk about hybrid apps because I know that some time back, like let's say I think 4 or 5 years ago when this came up as an idea, there were a lot of like setbacks. Many people didn't like it, and all that. So it became something that a lot of people didn't even consider, right? So this is what I consider to be a fresh look on one of the best frameworks I've seen out there for building hybrid apps that actually work just as good as native apps. Okay. Cool. So we all know that the web is going mobile, right? Like if you check any statistics today, like anybody who runs I don't know, like startups or companies or anything, you look at the analytics, they'll tell you that most of them at least have more than 50% of their users who come from mobile, right? So people come to me very often and say, I want to build a mobile app for my business. I want to build a mobile app for my business. So you know that it's really important to, like it's a skill that you should have. If you're a developer and you don't know how to build mobile apps for at least one platform, you're not doing yourself any favors because I anticipate that it's going to be even more and more required moving forward. Like a lot of companies will be hiring for it. And even if you want to go freelance, it's also something that you'll be getting a lot of requests for, right? So yeah, I mean, it's something that we all know. So if you wanted to build what is going on? 1 second. Okay, I think that was it. Okay, there you go. All right. So if you want to build a mobile app today, now there's this problem, right? Because if you're building for iOS, you're either choosing Swift or what's it called, Objective-C. If you're building for Android, you're choosing Java or Kotlin. Now that you're there about it. Now Firefox have their own platform. I don't really even know what they are using for that. If you're building for Windows, then you're building with either C# or some language that can compile into .NET, right? So that means that it is very, very difficult these days to find one developer who will tell you that he's an expert at building for more than one platform at a time. So he's either an Android developer, which is very common here, or he's an iOS developer. And in my experience, those I've seen that actually do both platforms always have one that they are better at than the other. It's virtually impossible to fully master both of them because the speed at which these platforms evolve, like they add new APIs, they add new ways. Like now, Google is adding progressive web apps, and they're asking developers to implement that. Swift just released their new version of Apple just released a new version of Swift, which means that a bunch of things are going to change and all that. It's just literally impossible to keep up, right, with that. So if you are building for those platforms, then you have to then keep up with all these things, and it's a lot of headache, right? Because even after you build your app, then you have to think about, okay, when I'm using a new version that I have to release for iOS and Android, then if there's a bug, there could be a bug in Android that doesn't appear in iOS, and it's so check out like a lot of the teams, the mature teams, they never have like developers working on multiple platforms. There's an iOS team, there's an Android team, and everybody's focused on just one platform, right? So, but then not all of us have that luxury. Like, let's face it, not many of us are not going to build companies that are going to scale as big as Facebook or Google or whatever, right? So then the question now becomes, what do you do while you are growing, right? If you decide to go with natives, there's a lot of things that you can like about native. With native, obviously, the performance is unmatched because you are manipulating the hardware directly, so you get the best performance. There is nothing like your app being slow because of whatsoever reason, right? But then those who have done it will tell you that it's very time consuming, right? For so many reasons. Like testing is an issue. Like you deploy your app, if you're working with emulator, then you have to deploy, if you're doing for Android, then you have to deploy multiple versions of Android to realize where it actually works and where it doesn't work, different screen sizes, different parameters, and it's, so it's very time consuming, and then it's expensive because, again, most people will charge for development based on how many hours they spend or how long it takes. And you obviously can compare building an Android app to building a website, right? It will cost you 2 or 3 times more than that, right? So those are the cons. But then we all agree that yes, when it comes to performance, it's unmatched, okay? So then, why would anybody want to consider doing it any other way, right? So I don't know if for those of you who remember, but when Facebook started building their mobile apps, they actually started with hybrid, right? They started, their very first version of Facebook was a hybrid app that ran across Windows, Android, iOS back then, and it was super slow, stupid slow. Like, it was stupid slow. I know, I agree, we are getting there. So I also tried it back then, and I really didn't like it because it was really slow. Mobile browsers were not advanced enough to be able to render things fast enough to get a performance that is accepted. And you could literally be able to tell back then what a mobile app that was built natively and what a mobile app that was built with a hybrid app were. Because when you launch it, it obviously performs very differently, right? But then today, I don't think that's the case anymore, right? Unlike back in the days where there was even no conversation around how you agree on what are the accepted design guidelines to follow for one platform, right? So you find people who are building apps and it looks exactly the same on iOS, it looks the same on Android, because there is nothing like trying to follow the guidelines of the platform itself, right? So this is one of the reasons why I personally didn't like using hybrid then, but luckily for me, I never got to work on any serious mobile project, so I could get away with it. But then today, mobile browsers have gotten much faster, right? There are hybrid mobile hybrid app frameworks out there that have started focusing a lot on performance. Like, they are not going to add anything if it's going to make the user experience slow. They are focused on trying to respect the design guidelines, because now Android and iOS are more strict about making sure that the app looks and feels like either an iOS app or an Android app. So you can't just go around and be messing around with whatever design guidelines you do. And this framework has started doing that, right? So let me find out how many of you are web developers. How many of you are native mobile app developers? That's it, a lot. Okay. So what if you could actually use your existing skills, right, and build mobile apps that work and feel just like, a native app, right? What if you could do that? Because if you could do that, that means that you just reuse your HTML, CSS, JavaScript skills. You can target multiple platforms. I know Ionic right now targets iOS, Android, Windows, and something else, I can't remember. BlackBerry? I doubt it. I really doubt it. It's quicker because what I've seen people who build hybrid apps do is they reuse a lot of the code from their website. If it's a web app that you are trying to build a mobile app for, you are going to literally reuse a lot of the code for it, right? And I've seen people making efforts where they can just go from one code base and generate the mobile code base directly, so that you don't have to maintain two code bases, right? So it's way, way quicker. And then with Cordova, which is a set of APIs, you can actually access the hardware functions that hybrid apps will not have been able to give you like 5 years ago. Like 5 years ago, unless you're not accessing the camera, the GPS, and all that, you will have to build a native app. But today, you can actually access all these things directly from the browser, right? Because browsers have gotten the ability to interact with these things natively, so you don't actually have to build a native app to be able to get access to these things, right? So the gap between what I need from a native framework in terms of access to my hardware comparing to what I can do with the hybrid apps is getting much shorter. And I've built a couple of hybrid apps, and it's always amazing to me when people look at it, and then when I tell them that it's a hybrid app, they actually don't believe it. It's like, no, it's not possible. How can it be a hybrid app? So yeah, we just spoke about Cordova. But then this is one of the platforms that, yeah, exactly, that you can target with Ionic, right? Because it's a web app, it actually runs in a browser, right? That means that aside from being able to run it on Android and iOS directly, you can actually run it on pretty much anything. And keep in mind that we'll go to the next slides will show you. But then Ionic uses AngularJS in the background, which means that it's very easy to just port whatever you wrote and extend it to whichever platform, as long as it's something that's compatible with the web. Cool. And then these are some of the things that you can do. You can access the battery, camera, contacts, device, dialog. There's a lot more than this, but these are just some examples. Cool. So how many people know AngularJS? Wow, everybody. See, this is why I love this. So one of the reasons why I actually got attracted to Ionic was because I'm very lazy, right? I don't like learning things that I won't use on a daily basis. So the idea of being able to reuse existing skills and just top it up with just a little bit of something that I don't know was very attractive to me, right? It's kind of like if you know Rails and then you go to like Ember.js, it's pretty easy to pick up. If you know, I don't know, Python and try to learn Ruby, it's pretty easy to pick up. That's always how I felt like learning, something new should go. So Ionic also provides that experience, right? They said, you know HTML, you know CSS, you know JavaScript, add a little bit of Angular, because when I started with AngularJS, I actually didn't even know AngularJS, but then it's like add a little bit of AngularJS to it, and then you get the perfect way of building your apps that can stay maintainable, testable, and deployable, right? So since you already know Angular, I'm not going to spend time on this. But then Ionic, yeah, it's this open source framework that uses Angular, Sass, CSS, Cordova to give you the best framework you can use to build your mobile apps. Now, this is one of the best slides for me. The fact that they are performance obsessed. Like, if you go to their Git repository, you will see a bunch of conversations that they have, right? Somebody wants to add something to the framework, and they'll go back and forth and do like 1,000 tests and come back with benchmarks and say that no, it's not fast enough, we're not going to add this. They would not add anything that would make the app any slower than it currently is, right? They will only add things that will make it faster. So it's like they're really obsessed on how fast can it perform. If it's not going to be fast enough, as close as possible to native apps, then forget it, you're not going to do it, right? So that's why I personally would vouch for this. And then Ionic also came up with, how many people know Bootstrap? Right, so they came up with this CSS like MIDI framework inside it that has the whole responsive grid, 12 grid columns, designs and all that, buttons that adapt, images that are responsive, all these things, right? They have all these things inside. That means that when you're coding here, you really don't need to think about screen size and whatever. Like, it will adapt to any screen size that you're using. And the way it works internally is it actually passes, injects a different CSS class to the body of the page when it detects the device that it's going to run on. So that allows it to know that, okay, this is an iOS device, so for instance, I'm not going to put the tabs at the top, I'm going to put it under, because that's what the iOS design guideline says. If it detects there's an Android device, then to change the layout, to make sure that it respects the guidelines. So never have to worry about resolutions or screen size. They also have a set of really wonderful icons, so you don't have to go out looking for different icons. And there's a good reason why they did this. It's because they want to limit as much as possible how many external requests you need to make. Yeah. Right? If they didn't have this, you will have to use something like the Bootstrap icons or I don't know, what's it called? Font Awesome or one of these other ones to be able to get these things. So by saying that, hey, we are going to build our SVG compliant icons directly inside the framework, you don't have to go and look for it anywhere else. And the best part is these icons are also platform, they respect the design guidelines. So if you add, let's say, an icon for search for iOS, right, and you deploy it on Android, it will match it with the search icon for Android, right? It will not give you the search icon for iOS on the Android device. So that means that, like, the apps, like what you're actually seeing, it's just a generic view, but then when it gets rendered on the phone, it will respect every single design of that platform, right? So that was one of the best parts. So you go to the implementation, you see something like Ionic search iOS, Ionic search Android, Ionic search outline, because they use all these things to figure out which of the icons they should use based on the platforms that is going to run. Cool. So since we know a little bit of HTML and CSS, I mean, I'm sure you can look at this code and understand what it does, right? Like it's a basic list. You've got a divider at the top there. You've got some items in there, and then it just keeps going. And that's what it would look like on an iOS device, right? This is raw HTML. There's no magic. There's no like crazy ass XML or whatever. It's pure HTML that you can run in your browser, right? And this is what a complex list will look like. So for those of you who are AngularJS developers, you also understand this, like there's a repeat there. You've got a class that says that, okay, I want all these items to have a thumbnail on the left, and then that's the image. And then these classes are Ionic classes. So when you say item on the left, it knows that it expects an image, it will put it at the left, the name will be at the top, and then the description will be under there, right? So these helpers are already there, you can just use them. And the thing that they did that was really cool was they tried to find like all the common use cases for pretty much any type of application you want to build, and then they created directives for each of them, right? So I haven't actually had to ever write my own directive so far, because like any design I've been given, I just found something that Ionic provided natively for me to use. I didn't have to write any custom directive myself. So these are tabs. Again, it's these ones are directives. Like Ionic has its own tabs because they don't want you writing like raw HTML to create tabs. Again, because they will render it differently on different platforms, right? It appears like this on iOS. On Android, it will appear at the top because Android expects your tabs to be at the top for those of you who are Android developers. But on iOS, if you put at the top, you probably get your app bounced because they don't allow that. So it looks just like HTML. You have the tabs, you have the tab title, icon, without icon, whatever. And then they also have side menus, right? Side menus, a very popular pattern, design pattern for apps. When you have a lot of options, they also provide that out of the box. So you can add, I'll show you some code at the end, but then you can add like your links, and then like all these, like let's say work at home, this can actually link to other pages that will be inside the project, but then they render as different views in the app, right? And then Slidebox, which iOS developers like a lot. Action sheets for showing like a menu. So this also renders differently. iOS has its own, Android has its own. Then routing. So if you're an AngularJS developer, you know about the UI router. So that's the default router that gets used in Ionic. I didn't like it initially, but then as I started working on more complex projects, I realized how awesome it was. So that's what they use. Then the content with the list basically allows you to have, okay, they haven't showed the preview here, but then it allows you to have a fixed content with a scrolling list inside, right? So if, let's say, you wanted to keep part of your app as a fixed part on the screen, like let's say you want like a button that always shows up, but then you also want to put a list inside it, right? You can create a content and say, put a list inside this content so the content doesn't move and the list always go inside that content. I'll show you a demo in a bit on this. This has more to do with being an AngularJS developer. I think it applies to every JavaScript framework out there, since like you can't see anything from the back end. So you need to have developer tools installed to be able to see what you're doing. Cool. So the other thing is, unlike a lot of frameworks, I think AngularJS itself and many other out there, like when you're working with Ionic, it actually has a CLI, kind of like Rails. I'm not even sure if it's Rails that's starting that whole CLI thing, but then it seems like almost every serious framework these days wants to have a CLI, which I think is cool because I hate writing things from scratch. So they have a CLI that allows you to create a project, and what they've done that's cool is the CLI allows you to create projects and specify, okay, after you do the installation, specify a template of the app that you want to build, right? So you can have a blank one, start from scratch if you are trying to do something out of the ordinary. But then you can have tabbed apps or you can have side menu apps, right? So when you're creating your project, you can give it the template name that you want. And now they've added a lot more templates that you can use. So add a template name and then it will pull it up from the Git and then compile everything. It does make a couple of decisions for you, like directly, but it doesn't restrict you from doing whatever you want to do. So for instance, Ionic at this point doesn't have Webpack support, right, by default. But if you want to swap whatever it's using to put your Webpack and do your whole compilation in there, totally cool. You can do that. Cool. And then when you're building and you want to actually see what the project looks like, that's what it looks like, right? You add your platform, you build, you emulate. Serve is similar to like Rails Serve, where it just shows you what it will look like in a browser, right? And because Chrome has the ability to view what your website will look like on a mobile device, you can choose the device that you want to view, then you can actually see how it gets rendered. Cool.